get it straight. Put lime in the coconut.
So, Dr. Tammy, why call it the Naked Doctor?
Well, it's the naked truth about health, wellness, and lifestyle, but it's also fun not to wear clothes in the studio.
Welcome back to the Naked Doctor Show. This is Dr. Tammy.
And this is Cryssie.
And we have a great show for you this week.
Yes, we do.
We are
As usual.
As usual.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. Very, very excited. We're going to be talking about redesigning your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which some of us have done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people are in the middle of that
times.
all the time. It's a work in progress, people. It really is.
It so is, yes. And so I am on week 4 of the workshop that I'm working with people. So
How's that going?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's fabulous. We have even created a tribe now.
That's wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So the tribe is called the Life Flippers Tribe.
That's awesome.
And we are learning a lot and doing a lot. And
Yeah.
so I just, I kind of wanted to use these radio shows and the podcast conversions to share some of that information that we're doing in class. So that's exciting.
Fantastic.
So I have the little worksheet.
It's so nice how
working
much you can, there's so much more access that we have. It's not just a group of people in a room anymore. With everything else that we have, you're able to reach out and touch so many more people with this message than you would have been able to before. Thank you, future.
Thank you,
This is
future.
great. Thank you, interweb.
Awesome. So I want to talk about your week.
Yes,
had a big
I had a crazy
debut.
week.
Yeah.
I had one of my first music shows at Krabby's in Rogers, Krabby Seafood and Grill. Thanks so much to Joey Hurt, the manager over there, for getting me hooked up with that gig. And even though the weather was less than ideal, it was a little chilly, and at one point it was a little drizzly, I still had a great turnout. And I want to just, man, there was a moment where I was sitting there thinking, I feel so loved. I feel so supported in my dreams that I can look out here and see this many people on a night that was less than optimal. But, oh, man, we had a blast. We had such a good time. So that was a great start, I think. The next show will be July 3rd. It's a Sunday evening. Everybody will be off work the next day pretty much. So got to come out and see me there from 6 to 9. That'll be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And you have some, what do they call them, BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals? 'Cause you're even talking about going on The Voice.
Yes,
and
I've
all sorts of
auditioned for The
things.
Voice once before through the cattle call type of audition, which was rough but so interesting. I met so many people. It actually, coming out of that, made me feel, oddly enough, even though I didn't make it through the first round, I actually felt better about my about my talent level. And
Seeing all the other people are really bad.
I know, and God bless them. They were doing their best, but there are some people like myself that have just kind of dedicated their whole lives to their craft and making it better all the time, and that having that 30 seconds in front of someone who's like, it's the most judgmental, I mean, you really are putting yourself out there when you do that. And so next is going to be a video submission, so we're going to be working on that, and then I'll get to post some of those videos to Facebook. And my Facebook page is NWA, Vocal Artistry of NWA. That's it. And anybody can go on there and look at those. And if anybody knows of venues where they like to have a little soul and blues music for an evening, give me a call.
Awesome. Now, do you take requests or do you have prepared stuff?
I have prepared stuff, but my repertoire is pretty large, so most likely I'm going to be able to. Then this last time, I loved the feedback, so this last time I had some people say, we'd really like to hear this, and so I'll add that in there. I'll work that up for the next show, and then see how the feedback goes for that. So it's a lot of fun.
Very cool.
It is. It's kind of a moving, growing thing.
So as you reflect back on your application process to The Voice, because I think that's just really intriguing.
Right.
Do you think that you just weren't ready yet? Do you think from the universe standpoint?
Okay, here's how I look at it.
How have you
Okay,
processed that?
I look
because I think people do that all the time. With you have an expectation and you put yourself out there,
right,
and it doesn't.
It doesn't go
manifest
exactly like you planned, and so that was kind of hard for me because, now there's this whole adrenaline buildup as well the entire day and the entire process, and getting yourself ready and practicing, and then physically going into a room and singing in front of someone. So when you realize in that moment that you didn't make it, it is kind of a I mean, there's an energetic, there's a hormonal, there's like so much involved with that, and you think, wow, what did I what did I do wrong? Was I just not good enough? Was it a talent thing?
Oh,
Was
it's
it
so
my
easy to
look?
go
Was it my
there.
age? And so you start picking through all of that. And I had to realize there are some very, I don't want to say overly specific, but the way that you and I talk, I've put those goals out there. I've had that visualization. I see myself in a place where I want to be able to make a living doing what I really love to do, and I want to be able to do that comfortably, and I still want to be able to maintain the things that are valuable to me, my family, okay? And I don't want to give up, I don't want to give up anything loving in my life in order to be able to obtain the success that I want. So the way that I looked at it was, in that particular moment, at that time, it just, things were not aligned up yet.
You didn't know how to
Right.
juggle all that.
Yes. Well, I mean, and I know this is kind of hard, but had I been picked and had I gone through that process right then, I would not have known the things that I know now. I would not have, most likely, it would not have worked out exactly the way that I wanted it to go. And that's so hard to explain. But when you're thinking about everything that has to be aligned, things just weren't quite aligned yet. And the voice or a contest like that may not be where my success comes from. It's something great to work towards and it's fun, but I haven't set that as a piece that if I don't do this, if I don't get this recognition, if I don't get to sing at this place, then I'm not going to be happy. Those are the kind of constraints that you put on the universe that don't allow things to happen for you. I have to feel awesome at every performance. I have to feel good while I'm practicing. I have to feel fantastic when I look out in the crowd and I see my little girls there and they're so proud of me being up there singing in a pretty dress with awesome hair.
Oh, you did. Oh, those
take
pictures
that.
were great. That was
I know.
awesome.
I felt so good that day. And so I have to revel in that good feeling because that's why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it for a pile of cash and I'm not doing it so I can be on TV. Those would be great results. I mean, those would be an extra awesome cherry on top of the sundae. But I'm doing it for that fantastic feeling when I'm standing up there and I see people that I care about in the audience or people that I don't even know who are enjoying it and they come up to me later and say, we really enjoyed what you did. That's why I do it. So that's when we talk about strumming that string so that it resonates through all of your experience. That's the feeling that I hone in on, that I want the universe to bring me more of. It doesn't have to be fame and as long as I can get that feeling, that good feeling, because it's so pure and it's so good. And that's what I love to do.
Yeah, that's great.
So maybe it wasn't that moment. When I was standing in front of that lady doing that audition, the universe was like, yeah, you could do this, but you're not going to get that good feeling that you want out of this. And so I just had to understand that and not really focus on the disappointment part, but go, well, apparently that wasn't the route. We'll find another one.
And so many people do get shut down on their dreams.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm going to try this. And there's almost something in that when you say, I'm going to try this, that you're not focused on the feeling. You're just focused on that thing.
Result.
Yeah.
And that's where we talk about non-conditional. You've got to feel good unconditionally. You've got to feel good when those conditions aren't exactly like you want them to be. So and how many times when we talk about successful people, how many times have they failed? How many times have they tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed? Man, just the fact that I put on the clothes and stood in the line for 8 hours and went through the process, that's more than a lot of people would have been willing to do. So I had to pat myself on the back for making that effort and going through that process. It did make me better. When I look back, I'm like, yeah, that did make me better. Now I'm going to be better about the song I pick, the process I take, how I'm going to feel about it when it's done. If I don't make it this time, it's not going to be nearly as devastating as before. It'll just be, well, I'll be ready next time. So, and there's so many, this place is so fantastic where we live. There's so many opportunities here and so many places that, need good entertainment. So I'll have plenty to do right here. A next step would be awesome, but you know what? I'll just keep honing my skills and getting better at it. Hope to see lots of friendly faces and new faces out there next time. So,
yeah, it's so easy to use the energy of what we perceive as failure or let down. And we've talked about that, the law of opposites showing up. That's actually an indicator that you're on the right path.
Seeing that contrast.
When you see the contrast of what you don't want showing up. And that's I have some great stuff, some little sneaky tools again today. I'm all about the sneaky tools.
I love those.
But that's really important, I think, is to focus on, you know, what you're trying to achieve, that feeling of. You know, one time I did a competition when Oprah was starting her own network.
Yes,
and she was
I remember
starting
that.
was starting to find people for TV shows. And I made it into like the final running,
which is super exciting.
It was super exciting.
We were stoked. We were all like, oh my God, this is like one more step towards Oprah. And that's a big one.
Yeah.
The Oprah step is huge. Yeah.
And then, you know, when it didn't happen, I was crushed.
Yeah.
You know, and I really, looking back on that, used that to lose momentum for quite a few years. But, you know, as I was asking you, you know, how you handled that disappointment, I realized that if I had stayed focused on the feeling of that, because I had my own TV show at the time, you know, and, you know, I was a big fish in a little pond, but I was doing it. I had the feeling of it.
That excitement. And when you got that email that said, oh, by the way, we bumped you up to one more level. It's like, that feeling is so good.
That whole summer, I could hardly even breathe or think about anything else.
Yeah.
And then when I didn't get it, I let it shut my TV show down that I had.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, and I'm not saying like, oh, poor me, you know, feel bad for me.
But you know what?
But I let it crush me.
Okay, we tend to have this perception that these are once in a lifetime
chances. Yes, that's it.
And then when you say once in a lifetime chance, and that happens with love too. People say that. They're like, you're only going to find one person that's ever going to love you. Better hold on to that. And sorry if they're not quite the right one, but you think they are. So when you think that and you're like, oh, and it didn't, and then you think that's never going to happen to me again, and that's absolutely not the case. You just forge another path.
Clearing the way for something else to happen, or
right?
maybe
Because
you meet somebody.
How much prep did you do when you thought that you were going to be on Oprah? So much activity started, so much energy was generated by that. Yes, and then the key is when the disappointment comes, don't let that energy stop. It's like, really, now I'm going to be even better for the next time. So that's the way you have to look at it.
So I'm living and learning just a little bit, but you know, the next big thing, I don't know what that is for me yet, but the next big thing that I want to put myself out there for, I'm gonna do it completely different.
Yeah. But you know what? It feels like it's close.
Yeah.
I have this tip of the tongue feeling with
all
of it. It's like something awesome is just about to happen.
Big, it's
I know.
big. Okay, he's saying it's time for a break.
It's a break. Okay.
Producer in the corner says it's time for a break. All right, so we'll be right back with the Naked Doctor. Tabitha said I need more energy.
Yes, there we go.
So I'm going to inject more energy. See, I'm learning.
We're excited.
Hi, welcome back to the Naked Doctor Show. I'm Dr. Tammy.
And this is Cryssie.
And we are so excited.
Yes, we really are.
This is great stuff.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit of a bittersweet about experiences that we've had where we put ourselves out there in a really big way.
Yeah.
And it didn't pan out.
Right.
So I think the biggest thing that I want to say to anybody watching, and we're doing the Facebook Live thing today, or listening, would be, don't not put yourself out there.
Okay,
I get it. I get it that it's scary.
It is very scary.
And I get it that it's disappointing.
Because you make announcements and you get excited.
Yeah.
A lot of people knew about your Oprah thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people knew that I was going to go audition for The Voice, and they were watching the process on Facebook. So I'm thinking, oh, now I've got to. I got to tell everybody that I didn't make it. I'm going to hold off on that for a few minutes, you know, because you have, and there's that fear. And you and I are talking about putting ourselves out there in the way that we, you know, because we're on stage or we're in front of a camera or and that's, let's think about just everyday life stuff though. People that are starting a business, people that are wanting to go back to school, people that are trying to start a different leg of their career, people who are deciding to become parents. This is no different with any other life goal.
No.
And these, you know, where you want to go to someone that you care about and say, hey, I've had this idea. I'd really like to quit my job and maybe go back to school. And a lot of times that's that first thing you get is that resistance from the person that loves you because they don't want you to put yourself out there and get hurt.
They don't want to see you hurt. We can't
they're like,
stand
oh, you know, last time you tried to go to college, it didn't work out so well, you know. It's like, oh, I was kind of looking for some support there. But, you know, it's you're putting yourself out there regardless. But you have to keep trying. You can't just fold up and decide, well, things are going to be exactly like they're going to be from now on.
You know, and another interesting thing that's just kind of aside is it's so interesting the people that you attract into your life when you're really moving forward.
Yeah.
Like my husband now is the most supportive, amazing thing. I just committed to this year-long mastermind. I went to a group out in California, and this lady's just amazing. And I committed to a year-long mastermind, and it's the biggest investment. It's of my finances and my personal and just on so many levels that I've ever done. And, you know, I am at this point in my life when this whole thing is just a whole mind shift of how to say yes to yourself and how to step into that commitment. And so to have someone to work on me while I'm working on my dreams and my goals and to drive me in that process was really big. But more importantly, you know, it's so funny because Brian didn't go with me. And so that night when I had decided that I wanted to do this and I wanted to step into that commitment, I remember going and making that phone call.
Yeah.
And it was like, honey, because we talked about it because you knew there was a mastermind brewing there. You know, it's like you're going to this big sales conversion thing. You know, they're just going to try to sell you all weekend.
And it's tough when you've been immersed in the energy and you feel it and you know it, and then you're trying to convey that experience to someone else. Sometimes it does not translate.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, you had to be in the room, but trust me, this is awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm like, honey, you know, we talked about this, and you know, we said, you know, I was like, no, and I was like, but I get it now. I understand that I have to say yes to myself. You know, she talks about being the client that you want to attract, and so I get that I have to step in and I have to commit to have that, you know, kind of universe relationship of people showing up to me.
Yeah.
And I need to show up, and I need to show up committed and not just be, you know, backing down and falling back all the time.
And making those same mistakes and thinking those same thought processes that sabotaged you before.
It's time to move
because it's easy to fall into that.
Yeah. So I remember making the call, and he just, you know, he got quiet for a minute, and I thought, oh gosh.
Oh, here it comes.
Here it comes.
Oh, God.
And then he said, I believe in you.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he said, if this is that next step for you, that's
then
where
this
we'll
is
go.
the next step for you. Yeah.
And I love you. And, you know, and, you know, I'm so proud of you that you want to step into this, you know, and a part of me really wanted him to say no.
Yeah. Well, okay, there's that too. Once you get that love and support, because I've had that same thing where my, you know, significant other looked me in the eye and said, baby, if this is what you want to do, we're going to get a sound system together. We're going to book you some gigs. Okay. And I was like, okay.
Part of you wanted him to say, oh, you don't want to do that.
You know, maybe so I could always go, well, I had the opportunity, but, you know, I just never really had the support. So all of a sudden the support's there. Oh. So we've talked about that before.
Yeah,
what do you do when those dreams start coming true?
You want to be a victim.
Yeah. How do you start resonating to that successful self that you haven't seen before? How do you resonate? And yeah, there are moments where I'm right about to get up on stage and I think, you know, this could either go awesome or I could fall on my face. What am I doing? But you take that step because this is what I asked for. When I'm standing there in that moment and I'm happy and I'm doing my best and I see smiling faces, this is why I'm doing it. So you got to step into it and own it right then. Man, that is the best.
Yeah. Yeah, that victim role, that's really hard. You know, we talked about the different stages and, you know, stage 1 just being like the rage, you know, the caveman. Stage 2 is like that learned helplessness.
Yeah.
And we really try to stay in learned helplessness. But stage 3 is where the magic happens, where we start asking questions and curiosity.
Yep.
And stage 3 is beautiful. That's where your dreams come true.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've talked about before, your goals are working on you as you're working on your goals. And so maybe those other places in our lives, you know, like the voice audition and, you know, the Oprah thing that I did, maybe those points where they were working on us, those goals were working on us.
Yes, I feel like every one
us.
of those is honing you for that moment when you do break through. It's so weird. It's like the pressure kind of builds on you a little bit right before that breakthrough. And I was watching, Oprah keeps coming up, but she's such a great example. And she was talking about one of the first times that she got fired, when she was really kind of getting to where she thought, okay, here it is. Here's where I'm about to break through. Here's where I'm going to have my own show and it's going to be like this. And then all of a sudden she got fired. But somebody else was pointing out she wouldn't be the Oprah that she is today had that not happened to her. That made her work even harder and become more determined and really hone her niche in the market so that she could become what she is right now. So, yeah. So the next time I just have to sit there and go, even Oprah got fired. So I got to, this is just one step.
And so many people, don't really even come into their bigness until they are in their 50s or 60s or even 70s.
And the whole age thing needs to be taken out of the equation, because I see so many people that are successful later in life. And not that they never had success going forward, but it's almost like they really didn't know how to define what it is they truly wanted until they had that life experience. And it seems when you're younger, you do kind of want someone to reach down and go, oh, look, I've recognized how awesome you are. Let me lift you up and make your life awesome. And then we realize as we get older, it's like, I need to define that for myself and
Step
not
into
expect
that yourself.
some miracle to reach down and lift me out of the muck. I've got to do that myself.
That's what the journey's about.
It is.
Where do we get that thought? Do we watch like Disney movies and we see like princes rescuing princesses
I
or
really
something?
don't
Where's
know,
that rescue
because
thing come
first
from?
of all, what bothers me about the primary view that we have, and I don't like to use, and then the media, but let's think about that. It is
the messaging that's coming in.
Everyone that you see is a victim. It really is.
Yeah.
And even when you watch the cool, music shows and stuff, you know that every person is going to have a sob story about how so-and-so had this disease. And I would much rather they get someone on there that says, things are awesome, but I would really like to win this music contest. I don't think they necessarily have to have a terrible sob story behind them.
The hero's journey is a big journey, though.
But there's so much of that victim mentality that I see promoted. It's everyone on TV is blaming somebody else for the problem. Does that make sense? Instead of the stuff that really makes the news is not people necessarily overcoming. It's there's so much, these people are so downtrodden and oppressed. And I just feel like we tend to promote that within ourselves. Like, what's your victim story? Oh, well, my victim story is this. Oh, well, my victim story is this. It's like we really need to focus on where I pulled out of this in the success story and how I got past that. Right. Yeah. We need to focus on the next step. Yeah. We need to get out of that step 1 and step 2 and start really talking about our step 3s, because that's where we inspire others truly. Truly.
One of the most challenging things in the stages that I've been learning is that you cannot complain. The minute you complaining is the ticket back.
You're just resonating harder with what you don't like.
Yeah. It's like...
It really is.
It's so crazy. I mean, it's like, if you want to know the way to get to stage 3, you have to ask questions, and you have to be curious, and you have to breathe, and you have to,
You have to start
look at the big
recognizing something
picture.
else than where you're currently at.
Yeah, exactly. But, the step back is complaining.
Something just came to me, Tammy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we went to a Renaissance fair last weekend, and this just popped into my head while you said that. And we were trying to figure out where we were. And so we were looking at the big map, because the way that castle in Muskogee is laid out, it's all over the place. And so we were looking at the map with a little dot that says, you are here. And when you are complaining, that's all you're doing is pointing to that, you are here. You are here. You are here. Okay, well, if all we do is stand here at the map and go, well, here we are. This is where we are. Look at where we are. We want to be over there, but here's where we are. Okay.
The what-isness, I call it.
Exactly, yes. So you have to look at where it is that you're intending to go and then take those steps. You just can't stand there complaining about, you are here. Well, here we are. You are here. Okay, well, where are we going? Oh, all right. That's different.
Yeah. And we're so taught that. People in our lives all around us are constantly saying, well, here's the reality. Here's the reality. So
Yeah,
it's
you
crazy.
need to be.
They're saying it's time for a little break. So we're going to
Okay.
take a little break and we'll be right back. And
You are here.
you are here.
But
We're going to
gonna
talk
be
about
there when we come back.
And I want to talk about relationships because so many people struggle with relationships. So I want to talk about how that can impact the you are here with relationships. So, okay, we'll be right back with the Naked Doctor and lots of cool stuff. Welcome back. And those of you who are tuning in, this is Naked Doctor, and we're just talking about
those of
stuff.
you that just came back.
You know, and it's so interesting, too. I wanted to talk a little bit about, we were talking about complaining, and that's really important. I want to really hit that home about complaining.
Yeah.
Complaining is the ticket to disaster in your life. And, I you know, it's almost like when you detox, when you're like trying to get bad food out of your life.
Right.
You've got to detox the complaining. It's like a mental detox. And that's the poison in all relationships. And so, you know, it starts out like, especially in like a significant other relationship, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, it starts out with little things like you think that you're helping them. Like, you should really pick up your clothes out of the corner or whatever, you know, and they call that nagging, and that's just complaining. And, you know, instead of focusing on, wow, my significant other cooks really awesome meals, all you're focused on is those clothes that he leaves laying in the corner.
Or making assumptions about someone's behavior.
Yeah.
Those clothes in the corner, he knows I don't like those clothes in the corner. He's doing that just to make me mad.
Yeah.
Okay, no. Now you've made a jump from I didn't have time to pick up my socks to he's doing this just to upset me.
Yeah.
So making those assumptions, boy, and that can be a bad habit.
Yeah.
That can
So
be a bad
complaining is
habit.
just the poison that will destroy a relationship. And, you know, it's interesting because I was talking this week about saying yes to yourself. And when you take forward into experiences and relationships, you take yourself every time. You take those past experiences forward. So if you're like, well, I'm going to get rid of that, you know, guy because he was like, you know, no good and, you know, he did this or he did that, you're still taking the part of you that didn't show up 100% to the relationship or that was making assumptions.
Yes.
You're taking that forward in the next experience. So any mistrust that you have or any skepticism that you have going, and this can be a business relationship. It can be any relationship.
Work. People that say, every time I get a job, it turns out the same way. I run into this kind of guy and this kind of guy. And you do have to start realizing why am I attracting this same kind of distasteful relationship? Regardless, whether it's a love relationship, a sibling relationship, however, it's like, why do I keep attracting the same relationship?
Well, some people say it's because you need to work on that. But what is it about that you need to work on?
Right.
And so what I would say is what you need to work on is to understand that you didn't show up 100% the last time.
Yeah.
And so everything that you're looking for the threat in every situation.
Yeah.
So if you look for the opportunity in every situation, then you're more likely to show up fully engaged.
Yes.
Where it's that kind of staying a little bit distant with that skepticism or that mistrust from the last relationship that you're pulling forward.
What are you resonating with when you do that?
Yeah.
And so what are you bringing to yourself when you do that?
Yeah.
And it's not, okay, I have this person to blame for their behavior.
Yeah.
They were being, they were reacting to what, that's tough because there were people that would say, well, then that makes me kind of a victim because you know what I mean? They're coming at me with something that I didn't want, and how could you say that I attracted this? And we have to think out almost in front of what we're experiencing right now. Right now is the result of what we were feeling before. So we have to think in terms of how do I have to be now in order for this to move forward into something that I do want. So what are those things that I do want? I want trust. I want that co-creation feeling. I want that we're both on the same page with things, that our values are the same. So that's what you have to talk to, and that's what you have to resonate with. And then the people and relationships that begin to form in your life will be forming along with those things that you're saying instead of the complaints that you're putting out all the time.
Oh, and this is a great lead in. So this is really fun. And this is what I wanted to kind of talk about, the little sneaky thing.
Sneaky things. I love our sneaky stuff.
So one of the things is that you want to get really clear on what it is that you want, right? Because a
Right.
lot of us aren't really clear. So if you're not clear, then you can't really, like, it's kind of like the GPS. If you're going to Los Angeles and you just
Right.
plug in California, you could end up in San
Oh,
Diego.
yeah. Or even if there's a specific place you want to go in Los Angeles and you just go, Los Angeles. Oh, God, that
Angeles.
can be so many different places. You have to be specific. But, what I've heard people discuss before is in the specific, it's more about the specific feeling. Because when you try to put too much constraint on the details, and then you aren't happy when these specific details aren't coming into focus, that's when the disappointment happens. So it's more about resonating with that feeling that you want. What is that feeling of trust? What is that feeling of acceptance? What is that feeling of connection that you're wanting to have?
Yeah.
So it's less specific than I have to have the blue Cadillac. Okay, well, what is it about that blue Cadillac that you really want?
Yeah.
It's a lovely color, a new car smell, the safety, the luxury of it. And so when you resonate with those feelings, you're going to be much more likely to bring to yourself what it is.
We
that
talked
you
about
want.
that in sensorization, where you're like combining what does it smell like, what does it
Yes.
taste like, all those things too.
Yeah.
So one of the sneaky little ways to define what it is that you want is kind of goes back to contrast again.
Okay.
So one of the things that we did in our workshop was to list out different areas in your life. So maybe your body, maybe your relationship, maybe your car, your house. And then the sneaky thing is you write what you don't like about them. And so
Which sounds like the opposite of what we're saying to do.
So what you're doing is you're overriding your subconscious that's hijacked. And what that allows you to do is to look at, and the trick is you have to write things that you have control over. You can't just like about your significant other or your spouse. You can't say, well, he's just a jerk, and I don't like that.
I don't
But
know how to control it.
but what you can do is you can say, like when I did the exercise, like what you do is you write the things you don't like, and then that helps you like flip that, kind of like our Life Flippers tribe.
Yeah.
You flip that and you say, okay, well, what is it that I do want? Because like for example, my car. I have my dream car. I have a little red convertible. It's my dream car. But I haven't really been really happy with it since I got it. And, so when I was doing this exercise, I put my car, and I thought about that. And I thought, you know what? It's a sports car. Mm-hmm. So the sports version of the Lexus is not very comfortable. It's like if we go on long trips, it's just not comfortable. So when I think about what I want in my life, like the next car is going to be really comfortable. Mm-hmm. So because I didn't even know what I wanted before. I just knew I wanted a little red convertible.
Yes.
Now I know that I want and comfortable.
Yes.
Right?
For long, awesome trips.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. When I did that about like relationship, like when I looked at like my husband, I said, communication, because we're, sometimes we struggle with communication a little bit. And when I flip that, it's like, what can I do to improve the communication? How can I show up and ask different questions?
Right.
And really trust that, like kind of like the thing, like leaving the socks in the corner, not just assume that he's doing something malicious, but to just from a loving, trusting space, show up 100%, which kind of ties into what we talked about a minute ago about really just kind of showing up in that space and just being, not complaining and being 100% and,
Yeah.
kind of.
Well, okay, because we don't like those things that we define as negative or what we don't want. But when we start looking at that contrast as being necessary to really define what it is that we do want, it switches. It becomes less, why am I being attacked from outside? And more, okay, this is really going to help me come back into what I do want. Yeah. So if I am not happy in a particular situation, seeing that and acknowledging that, but then using all of that to define how it is that I truly want things. So we were talking about that with someone that had a job that they did not care for. And this person was giving me a list of things that they didn't like about this job. And I said, so now do me a favor. I want you to get out a piece of paper and I want you to, using these things that you don't like about your current job, make a list of what your ideal job and how your ideal job would be the opposite of these things. And so he came up with a list of, I want my talents to be recognized. I want to have a good relationship with my coworkers. I want to be able to come up with ideas that I can implement. I want to be able to, and it wasn't, when we really broke it down, it wasn't even about the money that he was making. It was about how he wanted to feel. And sure enough, in the last 2 months, he's been able to make a change into a position where nearly all of those things
that gives me goosebumps.
Yes,
That's
are
so
happening. But I said
cool.
it doesn't do you any good to sit in the moment and make the list of what you don't want until you can put a mirror up to that and say, let's go the opposite and help use this to define what it is I truly do want, and then move towards that.
Yeah. So it's not an exercise in focusing on the negative in your life. We're
No,
never about
we're
that.
acknowledging
We're
it.
about reflecting the contrast.
Yeah. Because
And we
if
don't
you
take the time to do that
You're not even
sometimes.
pushing against it, because you're sitting there pushing against it when you're going, oh, it's this and it's this and it's this. Okay, and we've figured out when you just shove against things, you're not.
Yeah, what you resist persists,
Yes,
right? That's
absolutely.
what they say.
And it's almost like that stuff in your life is going, okay, you got to use this to move forward. You're not doing it right. Please write out what it is you do want instead of just listing over and over again what you don't want. And when you do see that work in someone's life, it is exciting. And I try to explain that to people when they say, well, I'm glad that your life is going well, and I'm glad that you say you're implementing all these things, but you haven't won the lottery yet. I had someone say that to me. God bless her, because I love her to death. But she goes, okay, you talk about all of this, and you talk about positive thinking, and you talk about moving forward, but you haven't won the lottery yet. So, and I was sitting there going, it almost jolted me, because I thought, no, I haven't won the lottery yet. But if I look even 5 years ago at my emotional, at everything around me, I technically have won the lottery. I mean, really, if you want to go back and look at where I was and how I felt, and it wasn't even a physical situation, it was just my outlook day to day and how it felt like such a struggle, and I wasn't getting to create, and I wasn't getting to feel good about myself, and I wasn't taking good care of myself. And I move ahead now that I've implemented all of this. No, I'm not dripping with money, but I am so incredibly blessed, and I see it every single day. So I wanted to look at her and go, oh, sister, but I have won the lottery. It may not be what you think of.
And instantly manifesting a big pile of cash does not instantly manifest happiness.
It does not.
And sometimes it goes the other way.
Yes.
And so sometimes people get this money and then they lose it, or they go into debt.
Yes.
They've,
and we're not saying winning the lottery would be bad.
No,
I'm telling you,
no.
if I won it tomorrow, I'd be like, first I'd be
Heck
like,
yeah.
haha, I did win the lottery.
There you go. Hey, you naysayers. But
But at the same time, there's so much more to it than that.
Absolutely.
So much more to it.
They're saying it's time for a little break, so we're going to
Okay.
come back and talk about winning the lottery a little
All
bit
right.
more, and we're going to talk about some other little tools and techniques. So we'll be right back with the Naked Doctor. Welcome back to the Naked Doctor. This is Dr. Tammy.
And this is Cryssie.
Had a little brain fart there for a minute.
Who am I?
Who am I?
Yeah. What
That's a
are we
great
doing
question.
again?
Yeah, the universal question.
That is
Who
kind of
am
what
I?
we're asking
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Who am I?
Yeah.
And
I get
Yeah.
to decide that. I
I
get to
do
decide
get to
who I
decide
That's
that.
what's cool.
Yeah.
Is when you're like, who am I? I can't find myself. Really? How about defining it
Yeah.
and then becoming it?
yeah, that's great. Everybody's like, I got to find myself, or, it's like, you just have to define yourself and step into it.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we were talking about in the beginning was, we do these big opportunities and then you don't experience what you want to out of it, but you define yourself out of that. You define yourself as, that wasn't the time for me yet.
Yeah.
And it's a bigger thing about trust. So many people say, well, I don't trust anybody, and I've got all this skepticism. I trust God. I trust the universe. I trust the bigger picture. I trust my higher self.
I trust the higher version of myself who can see things from a different perspective than I do.
That I'm here to have certain experiences. And, the experience that I signed up for might not have been that.
Yeah.
And if I got that Oprah thing, my life would look completely different right now. And I might not have been on the trajectory to figure out the things that I'm figuring out now.
Yeah. You would have different people around you too. I mean, it would be a very, very different situation. So you always have to look at everything is actually working in my best interest. That's the weird focus that you have to start switching to. Even if it looks like everything around you is negative, you can say, you know what, I don't know how, but everything is working out in my best interest. It's crazy.
Yeah. So when people ask you how you are, one of the first things you can do is instead of going, okay, how are you? Oh, fine.
yeah.
Fine. What is fine? You know, I mean, that's like a crap answer.
Yeah.
You know, I always try to say fabulous. That's my favorite word. I'm fabulous. Yeah. Or, stepping into living the dream.
Fantastic.
You know, I love to say
Yeah.
living the dream.
Everything
How are
is
you living the
sunshiny.
dream? And really mean it.
Yeah.
You know, because the minute you start going, oh, fine, or it's okay, or well,
Yeah,
gosh,
well,
you're going backwards.
Yeah.
So you really have to focus on that.
Because you're putting an image into someone else's mind about how your reality is. And
Yeah.
all it's doing is confirming or denying. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really all it is.
Yeah.
So you might as well put that picture into someone else's universe. My life is awesome.
Define
Think of
it.
the things
Define
that are
yourself.
awesome for you. You're not lying about
No.
it. My life is
There's
awesome.
plenty
I have
of
a
great
great family
things.
and people that love me, and I'm getting to do music and everything's looking up, and all I can see is like roses from here on out. So yeah, I'm going to tell you that. Things are awesome. And I'm going to mean that. And in their mind, most of the time, it's like, well, good, I'm glad to hear that for you. And that now there's another little piece of reality there that's confirming exactly what you need.
And you also got to be prepared because some people won't like that answer.
Oh, no, some people don't.
And so you have to be like out ahead of it, like you said.
Yeah.
That some people are going to look at you like, ew,
Oh,
is she just
really?
a Pollyanna?
Great.
Yeah.
That's nice for you.
So just prepare for that. And
Yeah.
just, and it's not about them, it's about you and what you're putting forth in the universe. So anyway, it's
Okay,
time for
I
a
know,
wrap. I have
I
so much
know.
more. We're going to pick this up next week. I'm so excited. The Life Flippers Tribe, I'm doing that every Thursday night at 6:30. And that is an opportunity that people who don't even live here, can do, Skype in. We can
Yeah,
do
yeah.
we have webinar live and all sorts of things we can do so people can get into the group that way. And then the Facebook page, people
Yes.
can always it's the Life Flippers Tribe, but Dr. Tammy is my Facebook page, or the Naked Doctor.
Right.
So lots of opportunities for people to get involved in this movement.
Yes, absolutely. And then my Facebook page is Vocal Artistry of NWA. I encourage people to go on there and look at videos and leave comments. That would be wonderful.
Yes.
All of this just ties in
Enhance
together
your
with the
dream
fun.
and support
Yes.
you. I mean, that's so
Yeah.
important. I felt so bad I couldn't be there the other night because I'm like,
That's okay,
want to support
because
this
in
dream.
my mind, there's going to be so many more opportunities for you to be
Like
there.
we said, it's not
Yes.
just this one time. It's not just this one
time.
relationship. The
No,
universe has
'cause
so much out there
I could
for
have pouted.
you.
It was the weather wasn't great, but no, I
Yeah.
sang it just as I would if I was singing at the amp, and it came out fantastic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's not just this one time.
No.
And sometimes when I, if I have a fight with my husband or something like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, my life is over. And then I'm thinking, we have 40
it's
years
not.
together.
Yeah.
We
got a long way to go.
Yeah, this is just one little, glitch in the road.
We're just better defining how we want things to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So remember that little trick. Do your homework this week. Write the things down in the areas of your life that you don't particularly like, but flip it. Not
And
about
flip
focusing on the
those, right.
negative. You don't want to have this negative dog
I
in
made a
your
list
life.
of all the crap. And, nope,
And
turn
then
it
flip
around.
it. Yeah. So, whatever that is, if that's your body, one of the things I did was, I'm pretty fit and I exercise, but I don't really like the cellulite on my butt. So, when I did that and I flipped that, I talked to Jules, our personal trainer friend,
Yeah.
and he showed me some very specific things to sculpt that area. But if I had just kind of
Sat
had this
and pouted
energy,
about
sat
it.
and pouted, I don't like my body, I don't, and just kind of not been specific about that, I wouldn't have known, and then I wouldn't have known the next step to take to move
Yeah.
in the direction
Those
that I want.
answers come.
Yeah.
Those answers do come
When
you
you're
pose
clear,
the question.
when you have the clarity.
Yes, when you're instead of saying, how do I get rid of this? How do I get rid of this? The universe is just hearing you resonate with that yuckiness.
Yeah.
When you start saying, how do I move towards this? How do I move towards this pleasurable thing? Then that's how you start resonating, and those things have to change.
Yeah. And I always tell people that, there's that thing about the 6 degrees of separation. You literally only have to ask up to 6 people, maybe
Right.
not, maybe
Right.
even not 2 people, maybe the first person you ask, but you got to keep asking.
Yeah.
Isolation is a dream killer.
Yeah.
You cannot.
You are not circulating
You
energy
can't do
when
it
you're
alone.
isolated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the things with this mentorship program that I'm stepping into is I realize I can't do this alone anymore.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
to have support. He's saying it's a wrap. That's our
okay.
week. It's a fabulous week. So, okay,
But we're
the
going to
takeaways.
move towards
Yes.
what we want.
Yes.
An awesome show next week with
Yes.
everybody listening in.
Yes,
so.
yes. So our takeaway is define what you want. Be clear about that. Move in the direction of what that flip is
Yeah,
and what
resonate
you want.
with the positive things that you desire.
Absolutely. And take those chances, because those chances are working on you, not just you working on them.
Absolutely.
Have a wonderful, blessed week. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we'll see you back here next week on The Naked Doctor.